I'm sitting out. No, fine. I'm sitting out.
The arrangement is a little bit disturbed, it can be adjusted. But just they use it against your name. But we have our as Mr. Pavitra Chaudhary. Where is Mr. Pavitra Chaudhary? He has come all the way from New York. Acha, he will just come back. We have a guest who has come all the way from the USA, Mr. Pavitra Chaudhary, who is a journalist and he is an activist for the Hindu cause. Although he stays, thousands of miles away, he keeps in touch. And for the last 2 years, I have been in touch with him over the telephone. And it is only today I had this good opportunity, this privilege of seeing him. So he would be joining you. Another, is there a chair for him? I think we would begin. Pavitra Chaudhary. No.
Actually, you have to wrongly place.
This is wrongly placed. Where is Pavitra Chaudhary?
There is no water here.
Chaudhary is here.
Pavitra Chaudhary, you can sit here. Please, sir. No, it is there. Your chair is there, sir. Okay. Friend, since we are already behind schedule, I would not hold you up much. I would not stand much between the eminent and the erudite speakers of the today. Only thing is that I would like to begin with Professor Sharabindu Mukherjee. But the number 2 would be Advocate Vikramjit Banerjee, because he has requested that he is flying to Calcutta today, so he has to be left latest by 4. So I hope we will be able to free you even before that time. But let me introduce the subject and why today's subject and why I was a speaker in the great and complex challenges before the Tamils in Sri Lanka. Now, there were some of the issues that I find that came up. One was the issue of that it is essentially a problem of the Hindus. Now you see the entire Indian subcontinent, before the rise of the other religions or the advent of other religions, were inhabited by the people of the Indian origin, who might have their local tradition, but they were all following a similar strain, which was basically in modern times, which we call as Hinduism. Now with the rise of Buddhism, Buddhism also went into some parts. In some parts it has dominated, like in Sri Lanka, but in some part it has turned out to be an underdog, or in Bhutan they have dominated. But like in Bangladesh, they have turned out to be at the receiving end. In Afghanistan and much of the Pakistan where Buddhists were there, they have been converted into Islam. And finally everything has finally come on India and the Hindu identity. Now, anybody who wants to criticize the India, criticizes actually the Hindu traditions. And Hindus of themselves have failed to create a discourse where they can tackle these challenges first at the ideological level and finally at the ground level. Now, in the case of Bangladesh, the situation is, why the situation has been in one sense more hopeless than that of the Tamils of Sri Lanka, who faced a great genocide, no doubt. But in the case of Tamils of Sri Lanka, when I was working in the office of the Honorable Leader of Opposition in Rajya Sabha, I found that in every parliament session, both in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the Tamil legislators, irrespective of any party, would raise the issue in every session on the plight of the Tamils of Sri Lanka. They may be from DMK, they may be AIDMK, they may be CPM, CPIM like Raja, and ultimately many non-Tamils would also join them, saying that a great atrocity has been done and this must be addressed to by the Indian government. Now in the case of Bangladesh, where still a substantial population of Hindus continue to live, and actually it is the largest number of Hindus living anywhere outside India is in Bangladesh. But whenever the issue of Bangladesh, the atrocities on Hindus were never in short supply. But I have never seen a member of parliament from West Bengal raising this issue in parliament. Rather, he or she would like to avoid the issue completely because it is a very sensitive issue according to them. So, because if you raise the issue that Muslims are committing atrocities, they would say that Muslims also live in substantial population in West Bengal, they would also create some trouble. So actually this was somewhat bit imagined also by them. Actually they have, I would say that they have no spine to stand up to this kind of atrocity and misinformation campaign. Now Bangladesh, as you know, was separated from India as East Pakistan in 1947, 15th of August. At that time there was still 29% of Hindus as on date in that East Pakistan. Now at one stroke by the 1951 it came down to some extent, and then I have a census book which is according to the census of 1961. It is published by Pakistani government and I have that copy. They still say, it is Pakistani government that is saying that Hindus are till 23%. Although Indian government would like to place that, but according to their census, which book I have, it is called The Minorities in Pakistan, a book written by various eminent persons of different minorities. They say that Hindus are still 23% of East Pakistan. Now, when 1971 war took place, we learned that Hindus are 14% and 90% of those who came to India displaced by that war were Hindus, 90%, who were constituting only 14% of population as in Bangladesh, let's say. Now, Dr. Salam Azad has given us statistics that Hindus, when East Pakistan was there, Hindus were leaving East Pakistan at the rate of 700 something per day. I cannot authenticate that, but that is his saying. Now, when Bangladesh got its independence as a result of the Indo-Pakistani war, for 1 year it seemed that Bangladesh would become a secular country because it is based on the Bengali nationalism. Now, within 1 or 2 years, when Bangabandhu Mujibur Rahman was still alive, things began to move in a very different direction. And this accentuated after Bangabandhu Mujibur Rahman was brutally killed, ironically on another 15th of August.
So I will start I'll try and see if this will work better. Okay, this is actually a picture just to give you starting में कि globally कैसा लगता है. And it's अगर आप इसको देखो, it looks very complicated, but ऐसे है नहीं. This is the global movement of people. तो लोग जो जहाँ से जहाँ जा रहे हैं, if you look, these are just flows. So लोगों का flows है ये. And if you look at the biggest flows, the yellow part is the biggest flow, which is actually the Latin America, USA region. उसके बाद ये region सबसे बड़ा region है, which is actually the Asia Middle East flow. This is the next biggest region of the world where there is movement. In this, India is actually the leading country. जिसमें सबसे ज़्यादा flows हैं. So the blue, I have some figures, but this region is actually India. So यहाँ से बहुत सारे flows, obviously also to Europe, other parts of the world जाते हैं. There's also flows जो आ भी रहे हैं. So let's not assume कि लोग अंदर आते नहीं हैं इंडिया में. There's a lot of flow also coming into India. So just to give an overall picture that हो क्या रहा है दुनिया में, कहाँ लोग जा रहे हैं. There's obviously a lot of movement. There's about 232 odd million people who actually are migrants. So there's a large number. If you look at flows from India, it's very interesting. सबसे ज़्यादा लोग जो इंडिया से जाते हैं मिडल ईस्ट कंट्रीज में जाते हैं. So the top countries for Indians to be migrating to are actually in the Middle East. There is USA, but UAE is not in USA. और फिर जो आते हैं, which is interesting, is Bangladesh. The highest number come from actually Bangladesh से सबसे ज़्यादा लोग हमारे देश में आते हैं. So if you look at it, estimates हैं because exact numbers तो कभी होते नहीं हैं. These are from the.
So time, remember, because we are already. So, sir, 10 minutes, huh?
10 minutes.
10 minutes or 8 minutes.
You remind me after 8 minutes.
Then the next speaker is Advocate Vikramjit Banerjee. Then I would call Samuji.
Thank you.
Chairman of the session, Priyadarshi, good old friend, distinguished,
I'm not a chairman.
No problem.
distinguished
Yes,
Yes, a chair, you become a chairman.
It is a violation of your right.
ladies and gentlemen, as Priyadarshi has very clearly outlined the basic issues which affect the minorities, say the Hindus, Buddhists of Bangladesh, as also the fault lines, the problems which India has dealing with this problem of the Hindu minorities of Bangladesh. See, the issues are fairly well known that the Hindus constituted about 29% of the population at the time of partition. They have been reduced to less than 10%, 8% or so. And so there has been one of the heaviest ethno-religious cleansing going on in East Bengal, Bangladesh. Don't mind saying that when I wrote the book on the Chittagong Hill Tracts, I compared the scenario, the Punjab, Western Indian scenario and the Eastern India scenario. I said in Punjab in 1947-48, for the Sikhs and the Hindus undergone was jhatka, the Islamic parlance. In Eastern Bengal, the Hindus went through what they call halal, slow slitting of the throat, So this is going on. Now in Pakistan, the Hindu Sikh population has been reduced to 2% or so. 1% Hindu, 1% Christians. Bangladesh come down a lot. The point is, you see, now all these points, those who want to know, they know these things. And a lot of people, they know, but they pretend as if they don't know. Say, one of the topmost intellectuals, say the NRI economist who lives in the east coast of America. Now when he writes, he goes on lecturing about culture, history, all kinds of things all over the world. He belongs to Dhaka. But when he writes about various theories of justice, various theories of philosophy, he doesn't mention what has undergone the Hindus of Bangladesh. So that's a problem. It's a problem which Priyadarshi has pointed out. That in Tamil Nadu, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister will take up the issues, but again Tamil Nadu Chief Minister would not take up the issue of the Hindus of Malaysia because the Islamic factor is there. So there they keep quiet. At least Sri Lanka, they keep talking about it. The Indian Foreign Secretary, when he or she goes to Colombo, on way back, normally he or she calls upon the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu to brief what has happened. Nothing like this happens in case of the Hindus of Bangladesh. So few intellectuals, most of them unknown, if they once in a while they hold some meetings in Delhi or different parts of the world, if they manage to get published in some newspapers, very big things. My friends, I won't name them, Bengalis who have known them, but they would not publish anything on the Bengali Hindus. Like that. So, but the point is very, very serious. It's a very, very serious humanitarian crisis because no part of the world the people have suffered as much as the Hindus have suffered in Bangladesh. As one of the biggest intellectuals I have known, not the university system, because our system can't produce intellectuals like this. The Sitaram Goel used to say that, Shravendu, what happened to the Hindus of East Bengal has not happened to any community in the world. He said even the Jews in Germany had some inkling. Hitler had outlined his program in the Mein Kampf, isn't it? He said that Jews are like this. But Bengali Hindus had no inkling. Because it is this Bengal which has probably produced the maximum number of revolutionaries. When you go to the Andaman Cellular Jail, the guide, if he can, he'll ask, where are you from? If it's from Bengali, then probably more enthusiastically he will say, Babuji, 80% of revolutionaries, those who are there, those who have given death sentence, they are from Bengal. And as students of history, we are familiar with the names. But when you look at the names, we know, except one who is a Muslim name, all the names were Hindus, like as Chakraborty, Bose, Banerjee, Ghosh, Rai, Mandal, all kinds of things like that. So we have an obligation as an independent country. Indians, whether it's a Bengali or a Tamil or a Punjabi or a Bihari, has an obligation to them. Because every taluk, every village of East Bengal has sent a revolutionary given his life for the cause of independence. It is this part of India which has given the maximum intellectuals, what makes Bengalis proud, so-called, Renaissance, biggest minds. They are from this. Jagdish Chandra Bose, or say Bipin Chandra Pal, Anandamayi Ma, name anyone, Michael Madhusudan Datta, they are all from East Bengal. So much contribution this part of India made. Yet, how they live? Think of atrocity. Think of a humiliation that a human being can take. It is there in Bangladesh. The women are routinely picked up like that. Very, very unsafe. I just happened to visit Dhaka once. I was sitting with a gentleman, and 2 hours discussion that I had, I got 3 phone calls that their daughter has been picked up like this. They don't get jobs. They are heavily discriminated. Last year, Border Security Force people, they asked me to talk to 11 army officers in Bangladesh. I went there. I don't know why they called me. So don't mind me saying, 11 officers, one Hindu guy, and the Hindu guy was the brightest, the smartest, most handsome guy. So I was very happy to see him. Look, so you have kept up the Bengali Hindu tradition like that. And compared to him, the rest of the, one shouldn't say, they're speaking nice Bengali, very respectful, but they're so unimpressive. So, okay. So, and then they don't get jobs, discriminated totally, Every stage, admission, professional colleges, to like that. Then there's this Vested Property Act, probably all of you know. How the landed property has been appropriated by the Muslims in various pretexts. It has been scrapped, it is not on the statute book yet, the land is not being returned to them. Incidentally, some Muslim scholars from Dhaka, Abdul Barkat and all, one Hindu also, the same is there. So then excellent work, documented work on how these Hindus are dispossessed of the landed property. But nothing has been done because the story is this: people who have profited from this appropriation of land, they belong to all the political parties, both the BNP and the Awami League as such. So no government would take a stand which would mean, say, depriving the supporters of the land, So this is a problem, and a problem of this nature, problem of this magnitude can't be solved because Hindus live in extreme fear, Because I know writing on these things, I used to write on the minorities of Pakistan also. I've written on the Kashmiri Pandits also, And problems I have faced getting published newspapers here. Now after that, so I didn't try to getting published. So idea is my sitting in India, sitting in a secular country, Hindu majority country, if I can't write on them, how could somebody sitting in Pakistan, Bangladesh should write on them or do something for them, So it's very difficult. But this problem can be rectified greatly if government of India can give some help, which has so far not come. We face problems and we try to write to the ministers, MPs, the POC helps us, to take up the matter. But these things, our grievance, our complaint don't reach beyond a point. So the grievances of the Hindus are unheard, like that. And there are 2 ways you can do it. Either the people, those who suffer, the victims, they should be more vocal, more assertive. Sometimes they are, but they're a hopeless minority, like that. So it's very difficult to organize them. And in the far off areas, if you move out of the bigger cities like say Dhaka, Chittagong, Sylhet, the Hindus are very isolated. And so they have no sense of security. And they're terribly scared. If they do something, then they will be described as agents of India, agents of law, and then severe punishment will be, they will be subjected to severe punishment as such. So 2 ways one can do is, one is this Bangladesh, they themselves will fight and they should get organized. The people in West Bengal must take some initiative, When you look at the Bengali newspapers we happen to read once in a while, including Statesman, they're totally apathetic. You should remind me when I crossed 8 minutes now. So they don't write about these things, Just try to write a letter to editor in any of the newspapers. You will see you won't get published. So I have seen that, I have tried that, so I am saying that. So that takes us to the basic problem. It happens because our state, our cess system, we call the Nehruvian cess system. Whether it will change or not, we are very hopeful that things will change now, things will move very fast. So we must have some time. So far this didn't happen because our political system was based on a communal vote bank. Communal vote bank, and the underworld factor was a very important factor. Mafia money was an important factor. Hopefully this has ended for the time being, because Narendra Modi's victory was on the support of all those forces who had suffered and who wanted to change, isn't it? Move away from this. We are very hopeful. Now, to give some kind of security, some kind of safety, to ensure that the Hindus don't suffer, they stick to the land. Because if they move away, then what will happen to them? They will be reduced to a further minority, isn't it? That we have to play a more active role. Once in a while, Bangladesh government will say, fine, we are trying to organize Durga Puja in a big way so that they can get foreign tourists, earn some dollar and things like that. So at times, certain gestures will be made. We are doing this, we are doing that, things like that, but nothing much is happening on the ground. So I don't know, I may sound very pessimistic at times, if not all the time, yet I feel that the condition, the plight of the minorities will depend to a great extent on how the political discourse moves in India, As long as, say, we remain apathetic to issues which concerns the safety, security of the minorities, whether they are Bangla Hindus or Pakistani Hindus or Hindus from Kashmir Valley, we just can't do it. And another factor which, say, prevents any action is the presence of the Islamic lobby in India, which has been very, very active since the Mopla days, Khilafat days 1920. And as the latest television debates, the newspaper articles, you'll see how that lobby is strong, from the kind of statements they have made on the latest incident in Paris. So that lobby is very strong. And that lobby survives not only because of the fanatics, but also because Hindus were secular. So, fine. So with these words, I will thank you once again for giving me a question. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Dr. Sharadindu Mukherjee, for giving a very putting the things into perspective as a good opening speech. And what I feel at one place that we were speaking in the last session of the linguistic and the religious identities. Now, you see, the entire Indian nationalistic movement had its beginning in Bengal. And most of the Bengali stalwarts, they were writing, many of them were writing in English and developing, the vision of a future political India. But somehow they failed to recognize this threat from Islam. And it was, I think, the census of 1881 that first, alerted the Hindus of Bengal that they are actually in a minority. I think many of the Hindu Bengalis still do not know that if you do a head count of those who speak Bengali as their mother tongue, they are actually in a minority. So when in West Bengal, there is a discourse which is accentuated after Mamata Banerjee coming into power, of the Shankha-Laghu, or the minority. Now, she must be told that in United Bengal, it is the Hindus who are actually in the minority. And they are ceasing to be a majority in West Bengal and becoming more and more of a minority in Bangladesh. And only Tripura is probably the only place where the Bengali Hindus are given. So with this, I think there is a need also to look at look at the theoretical level. As we will do, I will try to weave them as this discussion progresses. Now, I would like to call upon our bright and promising advocate and activist, Vikramjit Banerjee, to deliver his speech. Vikramjit.
Can I speak from here?
Let's work.
Hello?
Yes, we can.
Let's speak from here. Thank you, Priyoshi. My knowledge is minuscule compared to the members who are in the dais, so I'm quite embarrassed to speak on the subject. Of course, presentations I'm sure are going to be already been very knowledgeable. Priyoshi himself is an expert on the issue. So my contribution is going to be limited as to how I see the way forward. Now, in contextualizing what the problem is, we know this entire population fall, that's greatly spoken about. I think since 1971, according